All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh, only seen here out of Tin Mirror Studios in Kings Park, Long Island. Jimmy.
Yo.
Where are you, bro? There you are.
What do you mean, where am I?
How are you?
Oh, how am I? Not where am I? You know where I am. How am I? Well, I don't know. You got 3 hours or 4?
No, we don't.
Good.
Because I want to get to our guests as soon as possible because I got to be honest with you. Big part of the show for such a long time, and it's such an honor to have him back on, and there's a lot to talk about. But real quick,
sir.
I wanted to ask you a question. I was listening to, I guess, a podcast, right? And it was a wrestling podcast. Not that I listen to a lot of wrestling podcasts, because I really don't.
Yes, you do.
No, I do
But
not.
go ahead.
I do not. But that's
You don't?
No, not
Oh.
really.
Okay.
But they were talking about the airport test, right? When you see like somebody and you see them in the airport, you just know that they're something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the one guy said, and this isn't in the script. I have to ask you this, right? He said that Orange Cassidy passes the airport test. And I was thinking to myself, are you kidding me right now? Do you think Orange Cassidy passes the airport test?
He looks like a golf instructor. Why would he pass the airport test?
Thank you. But you know, like you get the airport test thing, right?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely do. When Kevin Nash walks past you, you're definitely going to know.
Yeah.
That's not Joe Schmo from Idaho.
And when our guest passes, you know, right?
Oh,
you either
you know.
think he's like a football player or something, right? It's like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, whatever.
Yep.
But
Yeah, look, some people have it and some people don't. And Orange Cassidy does not pass the airplane test. Does he pass the helicopter test, Mike?
I think he doesn't pass the Walmart test. And I'm being honest here,
Oh,
man.
my
It's like,
God.
it's
Wait a
like,
minute. Fisher Price lawnmower. Does he pass that test?
I guess maybe. Okay, dude. We keep showing our age because I don't even think there's a such thing anymore.
It's a toy for you folks out
Dude, there's
there
no
that
such
don't
thing.
understand.
No kid nowadays rides around in some toy
You're right.
lawnmower.
You're right. They ride the internet instead. I got you.
Exactly. Very good. Very good.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So listen,
Oy.
we didn't get to cover this when you got back when we were in New York together. By the way, it was such a great experience. And also, I want to thank Barbara Goodish for joining us last night. I got to tell you, that was the best Barbara Goodish interview I think that was around. She was incredible, dude.
She was everything I hoped for and everything that I do know about her. She's the best.
So
class.
I want to set the table, and then I'm going to hand it over to the star of the show. But Jimmy was here in New York. We interviewed the OVW Women's Champion, J-Rod, and then we interviewed ECW legends Todd Gordon, Francine, Sandman. That was on a Friday night. And if you haven't seen those shows...
We also interviewed the back of Mitch Seinfeld's head, but let's not get into that.
That's you got to get past that one, right? We don't want to bring that interview
I'm
up.
sorry.
But
I digress.
You got to catch that ECW interview. It was off the hook. Everybody was drunk, especially Jimmy. But anyway,
by the way, since you went there anyway, by the way, I don't think I'm ever going to allow you to convince me to drink on air ever again. And you know what? Shame on you, because the one time we did it previously, we swore we would never do it again. And yet there we are. And by the way, there's been a vote between Todd, Sandman, Francine, and myself. You were drunk too, white guy.
I was not.
You can lie.
I can honestly tell you. We've been drunk.
4-1.
We've been drunk 3 times on the show.
Okay. 3?
Yep, that Friday night ECW.
Yeah, that's one for sure.
Kevin Sullivan.
Oh, that's for sure.
Which, by the way, those 2 shows I just named weren't affected, but the worst time was, and me and Jimmy were gone. I don't know how many bottles of wine we drank. Mountain Rock.
And worse off, guess who was at the board?
Who was at the board? Oh,
come on, Rumpelstiltskin. You don't remember?
Rumpy was there. Oh yeah, that was just bad.
You were furious. You're like actually taking it out on me. I was like, oh my God, nothing's going right.
I will tell you, if there was ever a bad Monte The Pharaoh interview, that Man Mountain Rock one was just awful. Awful.
And for that alone, people are probably going to seek it out. Way to go.
All right, so we're at the big event, and I say to Jimmy, look, last time I was here, I was sitting at the table, And I saw Kevin Von Erich, and I'm thinking, I'm such a Von Erich mark. I gotta go see Kevin, right? So I said to Jimmy, let's decide who we're gonna go see. So we go see Flair, and on the thing it says in-seat photo, right? And you kind of get it, right? Because Flair's of an age where the guy can't keep getting up and down. But they at least warn you what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
And I wasn't so mad because the Superstars guy that I was selling the pictures to covered that one. So that was okay. But then we said, hey, let's do William Shatner, right? Because we're both Trekkies, right? Huge Trekkie fans.
Original series.
Line is empty. I'm like, Jimmy, can't get better than this. I walk up to the girl, and I'm like, is he still here, William? And she's like, yeah, he'll be back in 10 minutes or whatever the fuck it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
We sit online. He doesn't show back up for like an hour, maybe longer.
Right.
But in the meantime, we're getting aggravated, right? Jimmy and I are really getting aggravated.
Right.
But I'm watching the other wrestlers, right?
Here we go.
And to the left is Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, looking good, by the way.
Looking great. Jacket, jacked up.
Class.
Looking
good.
Now, again, I want to explain this to people that may not understand, okay? I've had a couple of bitch fests on the show, one being AJ Lee, charging $999 for like 3 photos. And, it becomes a point of just grossness, in my opinion. But this is my feelings. You have people there that may not be quite as fortunate as some of us. And I am sure...
Fans you're referring to.
Fans, that is correct.
Okay.
And I am sure that these fans save up all year long so they can see their heroes. And we're talking about 30-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds.
Sure.
It's the gamut, right, of people. Women, men, children. They're saving their money. So when you spend $100 to get a photo with Bobby Lashley, it's Bobby Lashley's responsibility to make that experience, no matter how fucking tired you are, how bored you are, for that fan. And I will tell you, we watched Lashley. He was giving the experience.
He got up for every single picture, arms around the fan, smiling, engaged in conversation, everything you could ask for.
To the right is Dustin Runnels.
Here we go.
And we had Terry Runnels on, and I was always a very big Gold Dust fan, not Dustin Runnels fan, Gold Dust. But after Terry Runnels was in studio and the story she told about him, I certainly was not a fan anymore. But I'm sitting there watching Dustin Runnels, and I'm like, maybe this guy could win me over, just like Lashley was winning me over, right?
Right.
This fucking guy, number one, he wasn't in his seat for fucking an hour or two, just like asshole Shatner. And we'll finish up with Shatner, and then we'll get to the guest. I don't want to go too long here.
Captain Jerk.
Captain Jerk, right? And that's serious. I'm watching Runnels. Runnels finally sits down.
Right.
And won't get out of his seat. Now you're talking people are walking up to this fucking clown, paying their fucking $50, whatever the fuck it is. He won't even get out of his seat. Now I'm thinking to myself, maybe the guy's hurt, right? But the worst was, if you remember, there was this lady. She was hunchbacked with a walker.
I remember.
Could barely fucking move.
Right, I remember.
And this fucking Dustin Runnels piece of shit won't get out of his fucking chair. Now, again, trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, right?
After that description?
Right. I'm like, maybe he's hurt, Maybe he's got a back brace on. Who knows? I don't know.
Right.
Here comes Roddy Piper's daughter.
Yep.
Right?
Teal Piper.
Teal Piper, thank you. I'm getting old.
Teal Piper walks over to the table.
And what does Dustin do?
He hops right up and gives her a big hug.
There you go.
Yeah. Point proven. The only difference, I agree with every point you've made. The only difference is that I'm not going to, I don't think I would fling the same words at him, but I understand why you feel that way. Let me leave it at that.
Listen, leave it up to me, right? Because we'll speak for the people. I'll speak for the people. You'll speak for the people.
Right.
Listen,
right. I agree with
if
everything
you're fortunate enough to be famous, right? If you're fortunate enough to be the size of our guest, who we're going to bring on in a minute, Ron Shaw, that got to wrestle for the WWE and be a star, right?
Shaw.
Big Ron Shaw.
Ron Shaw.
Right?
Yes.
I'm sorry. You have a responsibility to the fans to make them feel okay, to make them feel their experience.
I agree. And what was really heartbreaking growing up with Star Trek, I think I've told you before, if I was ever trapped on an island and there was only one show that I could watch, it would be the original Star Trek. William Shatner has always been the man to me. Always. He's Captain effing Kirk. He's also Nightmare at 20,000 feet from the Twilight Zone. I absolutely adore William Shatner. How many times did he reinvent himself when you think about the other, whether it was T.J. Hooker, whether it was there was other shows that the guy's a legend. I've always adored him. And as you said, we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting. And I turned to you and I said, Harley race. And you said, what? And I recalled the time that we were waiting for Harley. And Harley was in the bathroom for almost an hour. But at least to Harley's credit, he was in a damn wheelchair.
And the guy was sick.
You know?
I mean, the guy was sick. Yeah, absolutely.
He was sick.
There's a difference.
Sick. So finally, somebody, after we're standing there for over an hour, comes over and says, he'll be right in. He's in the bathroom. I looked at you. I was chuckling. I was like, you got to be kidding me. We finally get up there, and we finally get a chance to meet one of our childhood heroes. Fair?
Fair.
Okay. And what does he do? Does he say hello?
Nope.
No. Does he extend for a handshake?
No.
No. He looks at me and goes, just like Captain Kirk, oddly enough, he looks at me and he goes, you stand there. Then he looks at Mike, you over there.
Yeah.
Like giving orders.
Yeah.
And we leaned over. They took the picture. Next.
Here's my message to William Shatner.
What was
You're
that?
worth $1 billion, pal. If you're afraid to get COVID, don't do any signings. Stop it already, clown boy. I mean, seriously. I fucking hate Shatner now. I officially hate him. He's on the list. He's made the list.
It's weird. I've been treated much worse by Keyshawn Johnson in his rookie year. I'm sure I've told you that story.
Yes.
So I've put him in an indifferent file because I can never hate the things he gave me. As a kid growing up. So he goes into my indifferent file. And honestly, the Bible describes that if you're cold or hot, I will have more of a feeling for you than if you're lukewarm. And that's what Shatner has become.
What are your feelings about, before we get to Ron, what's your feelings about Dustin Reynolds after what you saw?
I saw someone who could have been very tired and obviously very disinterested and absolutely should have engaged his fans more.
Oh, you didn't see the guy that didn't give Terry Reynolds child support the entire time his daughter was growing up? You didn't see that guy,
well, you can always, if you want a refresher course on that, you can always go to the Monte The Pharaoh library because, of course, I recall that.
All right, but my point is that's what I saw. That's all I saw. That's exactly what I saw. A selfish human being piece of shit. Anyway, Big Ron Shaw, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestler and broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh. Thank you, sir, for coming back.
Thank you for inviting me back. But I'll tell you something, man. You just got me in big, deep trouble right now. You know, have you ever heard of Benny the Playa Scala?
Sure. He has a show on our channel.
Yeah,
absolutely. Now, this guy is going to be calling me about 5 minutes after the show. He's going to find out why you guys didn't call me the Earl of Upsets. And I'll tell you.
The what?
This man, the Earl of Upsets.
Okay.
The last May, when I was on their show for the third time, okay, they introduced me. They said, here's a man with so many upsets that we can't even name them. But they even came up with 3 or 4 more names that I even forgot in my career, which were, I had upsets over Tony Gurria, S.D. Jones, Salvatore Bellomo, and Manuel Soto. I said, I said, son of a bitch, I forgot about those guys. And I said, I must have the biggest upsets in pro wrestling history. And what Benny did is he went to bed night after night thinking about a name for me. Okay. And he came up with the name. He said, there's the Duke of Dorchester.
What?
There's the Prince. There's the Kings. But there's no Earls. And that's where he dubbed me the Earl of Upsets. And so, Mr. Benny Scala, thank you very much, of Dan and Benny in the ring. But otherwise, how you guys doing?
Great, Ron. Great. But I got to ask you a question. It's a little insulting because calling you an Earl is like, why doesn't he just call you like Garbage Man or something? I mean, seriously. I mean, come on.
What? Garbage Man compared to Earl?
Look, Duke, Prince, King. Like, I would have called him the King of Upsets. That's the respect I have for him.
Well, Earl of Upsets, there's been kings before, but there's never been an Earl. It is what it is. It's over with, and I'm happy with it.
I'm sorry. Listen, no. On a serious note, Ron, I was actually thinking, because I knew you were coming on the show, obviously, and I was thinking about you yesterday and today. Not in a bad way, by the way. How do you feel about? Look, you've had the opportunity to have fans love you and applaud you, and you wrestled in some of the greatest arenas, and you again, well earned. What do you feel about people that have this opportunity, and when fans look at them? And I guess you heard our little monologue. Was it a monologue, or what is it called, Jimmy, when two people do it? I don't know. Anyway, my point is, are we off base on that? Are we expecting too much out of our heroes, Ron?
No, I don't think so. I really don't think so. I am going to keep in mind, let you guys know, I said the sound a little bit down on your end is kind of low. So you're kind of breaking up. So I didn't get the full gist of that question.
I guess. How does this sound? If I speak a little louder, will that help?
I can hear you better now.
Okay. Do fans like Jimmy and myself expect too much out of our heroes? Do you think we put too much pressure, or do fans put too much pressure on famous people like yourself? And do famous people have a responsibility to their fans?
Well, I don't like the idea, number one, of sports celebrities being looked at as heroes. Okay, I never looked at anybody as my hero except my father. That's my thought, and I'm not going to say, first of all, I don't consider you guys fans of the business. You are talk show hosts. You've been doing this for quite a long time. You know what you're doing. Everybody comes to you at a phone call. So, they actually probably look up to you because you guys do such a hell of a job doing what you do.
Thank you.
Wow, Ron. Jeez.
Thank you.
Now I love you more than ever.
You're welcome.
Ron, we got a lot to talk about, and I really look. Jimmy and myself both have a ton of respect for you and your thoughts, and I think it's important that the audience understands where Ron's coming from. And Ron's got a lot to say, Jimmy. We got a whole gamut of stuff, and I want to let him loose. But the first things are first. Ron, you've got Vince McMahon, who just had that Netflix documentary. Obviously, he's been called out on a lot of stuff. Unproven, by the way, just so we make sure that we're clear about the rules of this country, right? Innocent till proven guilty. What is Ron Shaw's thoughts on these allegations against Vince McMahon Jr. By Janelle Grant and I guess some other women he may have made agreements with? What does Ron think of that?
Well, what you have said there is that, number one, he hasn't been found guilty of it, number one. He's a man who's constantly in the spotlight, worth billions and billions of dollars. Okay, took professional wrestling and made it what it is today. And I think sometimes when you're coming across people, they may want to take advantage of of an individual, and it's not just him; it's been everybody else, including Donald Trump, and maybe Matt Gaetz, in the political arena right there. I'm mentioning some names. Pete Hegseth, who just came out with some type of little bit of dirt. But it hasn't, like you said, it hasn't been proven. These people, if they have accused him of doing something, and have they taken it to the proper authorities? Okay, have they done something about this? Because it's not something I think anybody wants to live with. There's certain circumstances where these things seem to pop up, okay, at certain times. And it seems like every time Donald Trump is running for office, those things pop up, But that's about pretty much what I have to say about that.
Well, Ron, can I go a little deeper and ask you this? When a person takes money, right, at some point, does that person lose all credibility?
I say yes. I say absolutely yes. The individual is maybe just looking out for money. The individual who's being accused is trying to just wash this away and get on with his life. And fortunately, I mean, if you're paying millions of dollars out, and you can afford something to do this, well, in this case, it's probably the only thing to do.
Big Ron, you got the opportunity to know both Vince Sr. and Jr. What were your experiences with both of them? And if you can compare the differences between the two for us.
Well, at the time when I was there, there's no question about it. Vince McMahon Sr. was just a total gentleman, low-keyed. He'd walk around and then he'd go back into his office, like if we were at the arenas and if he happened to be there. Vince Jr., he was more talkative, and I'm not going to say he was bossy or rude to anybody. Maybe I didn't see that side of him at that time, until after I left the WWE. And then, things started coming out a little bit more, and people started saying, well, we're talking to Vince, and he's telling me this, he's telling me that, he's telling me off and stuff. Well, Vince McMahon Jr. is no question about it. I mean, he is the dead opposite of his father. I'll just put it that way.
All right, let's take a little bit of a left-hand turn here. Do you think moral values in this country in general have gotten worse or better?
Worse. No thinking about that. Over the last 4 years with this administration, I mean, what hasn't gotten worse? Okay. It's really sad to see what's going on. Rapes and just disrespect towards people in schools, on school buses, kids fighting on school buses, and finding guns in high schools in their backpacks. It's just going crazy. It really has gone crazy.
Ron, so on the show, we obviously we talk about wrestling and we talk about these careers you guys have, but we kind of we always try to speak to the moral integrity of life, and we want to understand what people like yourself, a wrestler, right? Because it's a wrestling show, what they really think about life. And I want to run something by you. Jimmy and I always try to dig into subjects, and if we think something is wrong, and again, me, Jimmy are not always on the same page, and we can argue with each other on the show, respectfully, like I think everybody should. Recently on one of our shows, I felt something needed to be said about a pro wrestler by the name of Mario Mancini. If anyone doesn't know who Mario Mancini is, he was an enhancement talent for the WWE for a substantial amount of time. From what I understand, he was a very good wrestler. If you were a WWE fan, just like Big Ron Shaw, you knew who Mario Mancini was. But the one thing I had a problem with is Mario Mancini, one of the claim to fame would be he would go on podcasts now. On the regular, he was like on everybody's podcast. And he would trash Vincent Kennedy McMahon, which I'll, again, make it clear. I am a very big fan of Vincent Kennedy McMahon Jr., always have been. And I've argued with wrestlers about that too. Not argued, but discussed. Mario seems to talk about Vincent Kennedy McMahon Jr. in a very unpopular light. And one of the things he would bring up is referee Rita Charlton, who back in the late 80s or early 90s claimed that Vincent Kennedy McMahon Jr. raped her. Vincent Kennedy McMahon Jr. was never arrested for this rape. Rita Charlton was sued by Vincent Kennedy McMahon, which later was dropped. Rita Charlton, in the last year, according to the Netflix documentary, received $1 million. Recently, I think Mancini claims that isn't the case. I don't know. I'm a fan. I'm watching a documentary. One of the things is that Mancini and his friend, I'll use his friend in quotes, Paul Roma, have had a bit to say about Jimmy and myself. And one of the main things that they said was, what have you two done in the business? We've wrestlers, you have done nothing. I'll disagree to some point, but we certainly weren't wrestlers. So I can agree with those two gentlemen on that. But I now have a famous wrestler on the other end. And I'm going to ask you, Ron, your thoughts on what I'm sure you have heard about Rita Charlton, and I'm just recapping for the show. I want to know your thoughts, Ron, and Jimmy and myself. Are we out of line here?
We're okay. No. I watch your show on a regular basis, and I happen to see some of your stories on Mancini, some investigations, and I kind of wondered, well, what's going on here? So what I decided to do is go online and watch some of these podcasts that Mancini has done. And I know him and Roma are good friends, and I'm sure Roma would back him up, and Mancini would back Roma up, probably in most things. And I started watching it, and some of them in their entirety. Some of them I jumped around because you're right, he did do a hell of a lot of podcasts. So what I started thinking about is that, there's a lot of stories that are coming out of this guy besides the one you just mentioned, and I will get to that shortly. And he tells them in such a manner which kind of makes it, interesting. I'm not here. I'm not going to knock the guy. I'm not here to say he's lying, say whether he's telling the truth. I'm just going to give you my opinion of what I've heard. There's an awful lot of stories that he's telling. And for a man who made a career out of only doing TV tapings, which was every 3 weeks, with only a handful of house shows, and you can see that on the, I think it's called the International Wrestling Database Cage Match. You can see how very few house shows he did. I myself, how many times have I done the tour in upstate New York, Canada, New England, out southwest Pennsylvania, out down in the Philadelphia area, so numerous times. I should have stories 50, to one of his. And, he couldn't have made any money doing what he did. He probably had a professional job doing something else. I don't know exactly what it was. I think I had heard something he mentioned. I can't remember what it was. So he didn't make any money in professional wrestling. The bad part about his job, what he was doing on TV, is that he was a face, and you get pummeled every match. Okay, there's very little comebacks, and if there is, the big names aren't going to sell. The heels, they're not going to sell. So his reputation was just doing TV. Okay, so now he gets to do these podcasts, and I have to admit, he has a lot of followings, a lot of comments on most of these shows. They're all in big favor of what he's saying. Okay, it's like the truth. He tells great stories, and yes, it's got to be the truth. If Mario was there, it's got to be the truth. And I think what he's maybe trying to do is to have his claim to fame through these podcasts. I understand that he has, I think, a wrestling school. I think they got a little promotion going. Maybe that's there to help the promotion and to get wrestlers into their school. And getting back, and I'll be honest with you, look, I've done more in professional wrestling than both of those gentlemen combined. And if you disagree with me, please tell me. Okay. I myself have been asked, and Benny Scala has told me, he goes, there was a producer out in California that wanted to talk to me about doing a documentary on our first history-making trip to the Philippines. And I think it was 82 or 83. And I thought about it. I emailed the gentleman. We had a couple conversations, and I decided not to go with it. Just a gut feeling, which is what I've done in life a lot of times. Now, with Rita, and I understand that they're very, very good friends, and it's great to have friends. There's nothing wrong with that. And the way she had said it on a podcast is that Mancini is like a brother to her, and that's great. And what I had heard of is that, when her and Vince McMahon were in the limousine together, that she had said that, well, he came on to me and I guess wanted sex, some type of sex, and she reported it to Mario, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, and in confidence told him, please do not tell anybody. And it's sat this long, 25 maybe years, 30 years, I guess it's been. That kind of sounded strange to me. And you guys invited me on the show to ask my opinion of it, and I think I'm the first worker wrestler that you're probably asking about this. And it just seems a little strange to me that it hasn't been brought forward a lot earlier when this happened.
Well, Ron,
what can I say?
So Rita, when she appeared on the show, I guess they brought her on to counteract what Jimmy and I were saying. And one of the things Rita said was, hey, I told him not to say anything. You guys weren't there. Shut your mouths. You don't know. And my point is this, and Jimmy, please weigh in.
Sure.
When someone reports a crime, which rape is a crime, right? At least the last time I checked, right?
Last time we checked.
It's your moral responsibility to report it regardless what someone tells you. Now, Mario compared the rape to Rita buying $10 pens for $30, and it was embarrassing. So we were comparing buying pens overpriced to someone being raped. That's Mario's comparison. Don't know what that meant. I mean, that's one of the stupidest comments I've ever heard in my life. The next thing is this. Mario, as we know, is part of an HBO Max documentary, which, Jimmy, we may be invited to comment on. We'll see. All right. As the counteract. But that's right. So if you would have reported this, Mario, maybe all this atrocities that Vince McMahon supposedly has done since then, that from the Ring Boy scandals onto Ashley Massaro, onto the kabillion women that have signed off for millions of dollars for his sexual deviance, all unfounded. Couldn't he have stopped this with this one report, Jimmy?
Well, there's a definite chance that could have possibly happened. But what Ron said is still sticking with me, that she compared Mario and their relationship, that she felt that Mario was like a brother to her. Let me ask you this. If a sister tells a brother that I've been raped, what do you think the brother's going to do? One of two things. He's going to either report it or he's going to do something to the individual himself. So exactly. I find it amazing that, and by the way, I think we're getting closer to 40 years later, to tell you the truth. If we're looking at the late 80s, I hate to date us all, but this is getting close to 40 years now. And now you're getting your 5 minutes of fame on podcast, telling stories about things that you should have done something about a long time ago, because perhaps then maybe we wouldn't, if these were true accusations, then maybe we wouldn't have a Ring Boy scandal. Maybe we wouldn't have a lot of the other atrocities that happened in professional wrestling. And at the end of the day, Mr. Shaw, all we wanted for Mario to do was just answer the question, and it's a fair question. Why didn't you address this then? Why are you doing it now? And instead of getting either a polite decline, we got name called, basically. So I really don't understand. Number one, you won't answer the question. You don't even decline politely. And then you compare rape to buying pens. So that's why we're a little upset, Mr. Shaw. But Ron, I appreciate your feedback.
Let me ask you this question, Ron. You were around when the passing of Nancy Argentino. You were around at that time, correct?
Yeah, not working for Vince, though.
Okay. Here's my question, though. You're the father of Nancy Argentino, and I'm a wrestler, and I come to you one day and said, yeah, I thought this was, and I'm not, again, this also isn't a proven murder, but hypothetically, I turned to you, the father, and I said, hey, yeah, I've seen some abuse. I wish I would have done something. But she asked me not to. As a father, what would your answer be?
First of all, I would have been as pissed off as I can be. Like Jimmy had just said, you have your sister who is subject to that supposed, those actions. And what a big brother does is protects his sister. And you're right. I mean, I would have reported it, grabbed my gun and loaded it, and go pay that guy a visit, probably blow his head off.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
that's how pissed off it would have gotten me, right?
I would have went to Rita Charlton.
Jimmy, well point made, Jimmy. You're absolutely right about that.
I would have went to Rita Charlton and I would have said, well, I'm sorry. You can be mad at me all you'd like, but I'm reporting this because I care about you.
Right.
And then on the other hand, guys, again, I don't know how much, Ron, you know Paul Roma. We don't know Paul Roma. But you're right. When we talk about these two guys, it's like the Care Bears, right? It's all lovey, touchy, feeling. And it's almost annoying. Like, I started off by saying, if Jimmy and I disagree, we disagree.
Oh, yeah.
These two clowns, and I'm going to call them clowns, if one says something, the other one goes with it.
No matter what.
I got to tell you, Jimmy, I think there's a lot of marinara being spilled from Roma on Mariano's back, if you get what I'm saying, right?
What, like ragu sauce? What are you getting at?
It's kind of like that.
Mike, well, real quick, though, while we're on this subject, what is with the host of Late Toilette Productions, Hunter Hurst Homely, doing there?
That I don't know, dude. That guy.
What is that?
That guy looks like he woke up from his effing coffin.
Right.
And he's another one. He's another one. You know, here's the thing. Ron, weigh in on this. As a country, as a people, should we just all agree and be on one side and not listen to the other side? What good does it do if you've got three hosts that just agree on everything, no matter what the atrocity is?
Well, what makes the world go round is that we have to have a conversation. Okay, there has to be a negative side, a positive side, and that's what we do. We talk to come together as one. Okay, so yeah, you're right. That type of world probably wouldn't work.
So Ron, adding on to this, right? We've had Lee Cole, the brother of Tom Cole, who Tom Cole took his life well later on, but he was one of the original Ring Boys. And Jimmy and I, a couple of years back, you know, Jimmy, if I could take it back now, I just would have stopped it. We brought this whole thing back to life on one of our shows, and it's been rolling ever since.
Right.
Now you've got Ring Boys that are now suing the WWE, 30-something years later.
Right.
Is it all about money, Ron? Is this what it's all about? It's like everybody could be bought and paid for whatever they supposedly went through after all these years. Don't you think this is a little bit ridiculous at this point?
Absolutely, it is. And isn't there some type of statute of limitations but in some cases, but you know, these people, what you're saying is they're now starting to accuse people, like you say, 30, 40 years down the road. I guess they're desperate in life. You know, they need money or they need attention. Something is going on, and you know, I don't know what, but I wouldn't be surprised, you know, of anything.
Do you think the court system has to be changed? Do you think these kind of offenses by people would be warded off? If you lost in court, you have to pay for everything? Like, if you're going to go that far? Because I would tend to think if that was the way the court system was built, that people would be a little more worried about making accusations, right?
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, you know, right now, you know, you can thank the Democrats for trying to rush in these Democrat judges right now before the election, or what do you call it, when Trump takes over on January 20th. You see what judges are doing. They're letting people out for murder. Now, Monte, you know, in your own state, your own backyard, what they're doing to this Marine who put a chokehold on a drugged up guy who was threatening people on a train.
Mm-hmm.
And what that plus bag Bragg is doing right now is he's going after him. Okay. He's going after the guy and white guy. Let's say white guy, because first of all, I think this Bragg is a racist. He's got it in for Trump and he's got it in for this guy right now. And they want to hold his feet to the fire. Okay. Now I hope it doesn't happen because what this man did, a Marine who served his country, risked death, dismemberment, and anything else that can happen to you and more, is the guy is a hero. He should be held as a hero, not taken to court.
Keep going, Ron. This is your floor now. Keep going.
That's just the way. Look, Monty, this is one of the reasons why I don't want to step foot in New York at this time. You know, all these Democratic governors, you know, forget about California. California is just a waste bucket. Okay. You got Boston, Massachusetts. You got a governor there who's starting to get on my nerves too, because you got a handful of people right now who are saying, well, we're not going to let the feds in to take away our illegal migrants who happen to be stealing and killing and doing everything that they want to do while we're putting our hardworking people in jail. That's stuff like that's got an end, and it's going to end on January 20th.
What were your feelings when you found out that former President Trump was reelected?
Oh man, I, you know, I'm going to go there. It was almost tears in my eyes. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little story. I was raised Catholic. Okay, my mother taught me as a little boy to sit at the bed, say my prayers, and I've always kept in mind, God. But there was a situation that happened maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago where a gunman went through a grade school and just killed so many grade school children, innocent grade school children who did nothing to harm anybody. Okay, we're talking 6, 7, 8-year-old kids, and they were dead. And the funerals that you seen on TV with those little caskets, it just broke your heart. And I said to my wife, I said, you know what? Why would God allow that to happen? And it wasn't shortly a week after that as I gave up all my hope in God. My wife saw me take down religious stuff that was in the house. I actually had gotten rid of it. There was a few pieces that my mother's that I fortunately overlooked because I still have them. And with all everything that President Trump has gone through, these indictments, 2 assassination attempts, and by the way, I was watching that evening on the Right Side Broadcasting Network on YouTube, who did every one of his rallies. I saw President Trump get hit, drop down, and tears started coming down my cheek. Okay. But when he raised up, he stood up and went, fight, fight, fight. Tears came down my face again. I said, what an unbelievable man. So he's had gotten through 2 assassination attempts. He's gotten through now all the indictments except for Pussbag Bragg, who's going to put it off until after his 4-year term is done. Now I had decided, I said, you know what? He's gotten through all this. The country is a toilet. Okay, we got a nut liberal who wants to become president and even goes broke in her own campaign. She can't control the spending, exactly where our country would have been. I said, there's a reason why President Trump is getting through all this. And I told my wife, I said, you know what? If he becomes president, it's because God helped him there. And I will be, my renewed faith in God happened the night he was elected. And I believe in God now.
Ron Shaw for governor of Florida, everybody. That's what I'm talking about. Ron, quick question. When you talked about that animal that killed those children, do you think there's a possibility that someone saw this guy killing animals at some point, but they said, hey, look, don't say anything, please?
Oh, yeah. Well, you guys talked about that last night.
He said, don't say anything about him killing these animals. I don't want anyone to know.
Well, that's what these 6 son of a bitches do. They torture animals. Maybe they're torturing their neighborhood kid, and they're getting away with it.
But no, don't say anything, because the parents said don't say anything. They didn't want their kid getting in trouble. Listen, we think there's something wrong, but don't say anything. No problem. You hear that, Mario? You hear that, Mario?
That is the problem. that is the problem. That 6 son of a bitches like that, and we've had them down here in Florida where you see cameras that are hooked up to houses. I got security cameras around my house. But you see it on the news. A guy is dragging a dog behind his truck, 30 miles an hour. A guy is getting out of his truck, picks up his dog, throws it over a 6-7 foot cyclone fence, leaves it on a highway up in Tampa. They tie the dog in a swale, a 2 foot leash. So the floodwaters would come up and probably drown the damn dog.
We put that, Ron.
The poor thing.
We put that on the show, Ron. That was another disgusting act. I want to ask you a wrestling question. Jimmy wants to ask you a wrestling question, but I got one last question for you. Mario Mancini on his last show at Rita Charlton said, "I'm a forgiving man. Those two guys should be men and just apologize and I'll let it go." I'm going to ask you this, Ron. Instead of us apologizing to Mario Mancini, does Ron Shaw think Mario Mancini should apologize to Rita Charlton, Ashley Massaro, the Ring Boys, and the 27 women that supposedly were paid? And all, again, this is all unproven. Does Mario Mancini owe them an apology?
He owes everybody that you mentioned an apology and then some. Okay. A lot of time has gone by, and it's like you guys have said, you guys, when you guys smell something, you investigate it, you dissect it. And that's what I love about Monte and the Pharaoh. No other show in the country does anything like you do. But you're right. It's something that they talk about, but it's funny how it was never actually anything ever done about it. But they're talking about it now, and that's not right. That's not right.
Well, first of all, you're destroying a legacy of one of the greatest promoters of all time. And if he did commit these atrocities, then he deserves to be punished, without a doubt. But again, still unproven. But here is what is proven, Mario Mancini, and I'll say this the last time. You are the spark. If these are true allegations, you, sir, are the spark. You're the one who didn't do anything. You're the one that allowed all this to continue on because you didn't want to say anything. So, sir, you should apologize. And I will never back down from that, ever, Mario Mancini. I know what I feel. I know what I think. So it's probably better off that Vince McMahon doesn't get proven guilty on this stuff. Anyway, let's talk about something kind of fun, Ron. And thank you again for your honest opinions, Mr. Shaw. You are a man.
I agree. I agree with both of you. It's something that he ought to just shut up about. And if he wants to continue his little tour of stories about Greg Valentine and the time Chief Jay Strongo brought him a contract in Poughkeepsie, New York, and I don't know what that contract was about. He can continue. He can continue talking about those stories, but he should leave that one out. And you're right. Apologize. Be a big man. Apologize.
And if his friend Paul,
it's like you said, Vince McMahon has never been accused of anything. Did the cops come to arrest him? No.
And still to this point forward, they haven't even indicted him for the last accusation. If they had information on him, we all well know that they would have indicted him by now, right? So again, Paul Roma, you're not going to be left alone here. If you were really Mario Mancini's friend, you would tell him, look, bro, you were wrong. You need to apologize. But instead, you're just that doofus that goes along with everything because you probably got a brain of a fucking flea, I would think. Because, again, he has his own podcast and he doesn't even speak, so I don't even know. Anyway, Ron, quick question. Jimmy and I were huge Mil Mascaras fans, and unfortunately, we had this great opportunity to interview such great stars as yourself. But it seems like Mil Mascaras really did not work well with others. What was your experience with the great Mil Mascaras?
Yeah, I worked with Mil Mascaras in Madison Square Garden in early 1981, and I think I did a couple of TVs with him. But with the one as being the executioner in Madison Square Garden, when we were back in the dressing room, and I'm green. There's no question about it. Okay, I started working for them in June or July of 1980, and all of a sudden, they're putting me out here 4 or 5 months later, working like a semi-main event or just working with these big stars. And a couple of my Madison Square Garden matches were not too good, and I was never proud of them. This one was kind of funny because when we were talking back in the dressing room, he kind of says, he goes, "Don't do no kicking, don't do no punching." He goes, just listen to me, okay? And I don't know if you ever seen that match in Madison Square Garden. I do have it. I think I sent you a couple pictures of just me and him in the ring.
You did, yes.
One thing is that he's afraid of getting hurt because he had a movie career at that time. So he was a very difficult person to work with. And if you tried to go after him, I mean, he would just certainly run away just to stay away from him. And have you seen him working with some of the bigger names? I mean, you can see there that he's even holding back a little bit. It's very difficult he doesn't want to take bumps. I've seen the man with his mask off, which very few people have. And he's a good looking guy. Okay. But he did his movies with the hood on. But he is a very difficult guy to work with. And, what I tried to make of it in that ring, it kind of worked out to a point. But, if the heel doesn't get any major heat on somebody, it's not really a good match. But, all the press was around the ring. And when they wanted to just take a picture of him flying off the top rope and leaping on me for the 1, 2, 3 count. And that's just the way that match finished.
Jimmy, you live there, buddy?
Yes, sir, I am.
Where are you?
I'm right here. You can't see me.
Was that a boring story, Jimmy?
No, that was a fine story. But you see, the problem is that the next part that's supposed to happen is Mike is supposed to introduce the Pharaoh's final question, Mike.
I'm sorry, Jimmy. You're right.
So do it.
Well, Ron, if you didn't know it.
Sorry.
We're going to hit you with something called the Pharaoh's final question.
Hey!
It's an unscripted thing. I don't know what he's going to ask you about. I don't know if he's going to ask you if you like sauce on your back like Mario or if you want sauce on your face like Mario. Who knows? Oh. I don't know, really. But
holy ragu, Batman. I can't.
Wait, Jimmy, you think Mario likes his sauce just sauce or he likes a meat sauce?
Well, a little ronzoni with it? I mean, what are you getting at? What is going on here? Mike, Jesus, God help me. I need some pizza. I gotta go. I got.
You're getting me hungry.
Yeah, I'm starting to get very hungry. I want to get back to the political opinions of Big Ron Shaw for my final question. Mr. Shaw, this really bothers me, so I wanted to ask you about this. The so-called party that accuses President Trump, future President Trump, thank God, of being divisive. They have called Trump's followers Nazis and compared Donald Trump, future President Trump once again, to Adolf Hitler. This infuriates me. What are your thoughts on these sorts of comments that come from the non-divisive group?
Well, now you know why President Trump won a landslide victory, took all those key states that he needed. New Jersey is now going to be a swing state. I think he was like 5-10 points away from actually winning that. And, the Trump team was talking about what we're going to do for our country, while the Democrats and Harris, they're just calling people names and not saying what we're going to do for the country. I mean, the people finally woke up. Okay. And we had people, Larry Trump, who was the partner in the RNC, who they had about 230,000 volunteer people, former cops, lawyers, regular people. And they taught them. They put them out in these key swing states where they were watching the ballots. That's why you had a decisive victor on Tuesday night, which was my birthday, and that was one of the best birthdays I ever had.
Happy belated birthday, sir. Happy belated
birthday.
Thank you. I just turned 51.
Nice.
You don't look a year over 47, my friend.
But I mean, how can you win an election? And the people who are behind the Democrats, they're sitting there, they're clapping, they're applauding, and yes. They realize what kind of expenses they have now? The household is now paying an extra $30,000 a year. Okay, I know people. I'll give you an example. I have a cousin that lives here in Cape Coral. Okay, we'll call her Dum Patty. Now, Dum Patty and her no common sense son have been spit on for 4 years, but they still go back and vote for them, right? They forgot about the stimulus checks that President Trump sent them. They forgot about the low gas prices of $1.50. And it used to cost $10, $12 for a meal. Now it costs $30 for that certain meal that you used to get. Okay. But, now that President Trump's in, hey, they're not going to have to pay their Social Security tax. Will they volunteer to pay their Social Security taxes? Because Trump promised no taxes on Social Security for the seniors. Okay. No tax on tips and no tax on overtime. And we're going to drill, baby, drill, because this is where you start living. Your economy starts coming back with the oil drilling. And this is, we're going to start paying off the debt. And thank God for Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, and a whole team he's got. And let me tell you something, happy days are here again. But I'll tell you something, this one SOB, who's our current president right now, a man who is actually a traitor, okay? It seems like he's doing everything he can to get World War III going, because he just sent long-range missiles over to Ukraine, and they shot them into Russia. And Russia knows that we're supplying them now. All of a sudden, he's starting to start up something. And so, you know what? When Trump takes over, they're going to blame that all on him, okay? Because a lot of the dummies forget. They forget. They don't watch the news, okay? So, I'm really excited. I'm almost feeling safe like I did 4 years ago. Confident again, and I just went out and bought a brand new vehicle to celebrate that big victory. Because I'll tell you something, if Harris was going to get in, I was never going to buy another vehicle again.
Man, and you got a lot of vehicles too, man. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Yes, I was very, very lucky. Let me tell you something. A lot of guys maybe don't talk about the money in professional wrestling. I mean, today it's crazy, right? The contracts and so forth. But you got to remember that back in our days, we were getting anywhere from sometimes 150 in these little spot show high schools, to Madison Square Garden, where I got paid $750 a night. It didn't matter, whether I was under the hood or just as Ron Shaw. Well, a lot of the guys got $500, but I thank Vince McMahon Sr. for that. For some reason, I heard that a lot of the guys didn't get what I was getting paid. The undercard wasn't getting what I was getting paid. Okay. When I stepped in there and started getting paid for Madison Square Garden shows, which I wasn't even at, and this was at the end of 1980, and this happened for 3 or 4 months. Okay. Arnold Skaaland would call me back and say, "Hey, Ron, time to get paid." So they're paying me for a couple other shows, and they give me an extra $500. I said, "Well, what's this for, Arnie?" "Well, that's for the Garden." I said, "I didn't work there." He goes, "Don't worry about it. You're in with us now." And that's exactly what Arnold said. But I had in 1981, I'm sorry, when I was working as much as I was, they were booking me like crazy as Ron Shaw, the Executioner. And this sounds terrible, but in 1981, I made $92,000 that year.
Wow.
Which was a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
92,000. And even though I left in 82 and 83 to go work with Bruno and Donachie in the IWF, I came back the same time with Bruno in 1984. In 84, 85, and 86, and parts of 87, I was just on either side of $100,000. Okay. So they took care of me. But what I did is I invested in that money. The first $30,000 I made I think it was very early, towards the end of 80 and beginning of 1991, my father was a huge investor in the stock market. He says, "Why don't you buy this one stock by, I forgot his name already. Berkshire Hathaway." Okay. You heard that name before, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
There was one class of stock out there that was $10,000. He says, "Why don't you buy one of them?" I said, "Pop, why don't I buy 3 of them?" I finally got money for a change, my bank account. And he was teaching me how to invest. 3 years later, I sold each share for just under $300,000 a piece.
Damn.
Because it just skyrocketed. And I invested that money throughout my years. And when I got it to be 36, 37 years old, I said, "You know what? I don't have to worry about paying for things anymore. Okay. I don't have to worry about paying for things anymore. And my father always says, he goes, you know what? If you're not working wrestling, find a job somewhere, work, always continue to make money, because you know what? You'll retire earlier, retire faster. And that's exactly what I did. So yeah, I've been enjoying life for a long time. I love my cars. I love my vehicles. And, so, you know, that's what I've been doing. It's, you know, the golfing and everything. I'm enjoying my life. As long as I stay healthy, I'm enjoying life.
Ron, I want you to be my Paul Roma.
I don't know, Ron. That sounds kind of weird to me, but
Ron, I want to thank you again. It's always an honor to have you on the show. We consider you a true friend, and thank you for your flat-out honesty. And again, if anyone thinks that we led Ron at all, because you know that's coming, right? Not at all. We decided to do the show, and I didn't really know what Ron was going to say. We didn't even discuss it. I just said what we're going to ask, right? That is all.
Can I say one more thing?
You can.
Before we end?
Absolutely.
You're absolutely right. You know, I'm not afraid to buck heads with anybody, including you guys. And if I would have had a different opinion, then this would have been probably a very heated show. But I saw what you saw, and I'm only being honest. And I hope those guys, you know, don't look at me as some type of asshole or something like that. You know, I got nothing against them. I hope they got nothing against me, but I'm just giving my opinion. Okay, they finally needed somebody who was in the business to maybe comment on that. And everything I said tonight was the absolute truth. That's what I thought. They're my comments, my opinions, and that's it.
And you know what? I hope they take your opinions and give it thought. It may not change their mind. They may still continue to think they're right. And that's the best part about this country. You can think about that. But you allow people to have their opinions. Don't name call. Talk to them respectfully. And you know what? I wanted to address the fact that we're not in the business. According to Roma, we've done nothing in the business, which, again, I will reiterate, I'm not so sure about that. But that all being said, I brought one of the great WWE legends in here, okay, and he is a legend, and I asked him the question, and like Ron just said, he may have disagreed, and then we might have had a conversation like it wouldn't be the first time, right, Ron? We've had a heated show, right?
Yes, we did.
Right.
Yes,
so
we did. Matter of fact, that show I did with Dan and Benny last year, you know, it was going to be the number one rated show in Upper Mongolia until you guys came in and ruined it.
That's very good. Ron Shaw, I want to thank you again for joining Monte The Pharaoh. God bless you, sir, and I wish you a wonderful weekend.
Thank you very much, guys. I enjoyed it. It was the third time on the show. And maybe there's a future show for me, but you know what? I got to go right now because I know Benny Scala is going to call me real quick.
Listen, Ron, if you hear like some kind of moaning when he's talking on the other side of the phone, don't get crazy, all right? It'll be all right. Don't worry.
Oh, yeah.
Come on. Ay.
Thank you, Ron.
I'm going to stand 5 feet from the phone.
Good idea.
All right.
See ya. Jimmy,
I love you guys.
Love you.
Hey, God bless you guys.
God bless you, buddy.
God bless you. Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Thank you.
Jimmy, the great Ron Shaw, my friend. The great Ron Shaw. Never fails to bring it.
You know, Mike, you should have been a friend there and told him not to pick up the phone at all. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I know. You know what? What kind of friend am I, huh?
I mean, we're not following the school of if you see something, say nothing, like Mancini and Roma.
Wait a minute, hold on. Ron? Oh, Benny, is he? Hi, Ron.
Would you stop? Just stop.
Hey, listen.
Look at you amusing yourself like
know.
this. You cut that out.
I know.
You just cut that out.
I'm terrible.
Jesus.
Listen, I really appreciate his opinion. He didn't hold back. You know what I'm saying?
No. Well, he's a real man, and he stands by what he believes in. But he's willing to engage in conversations with those who don't. And last I checked, that's what America's supposed to be about. He was fantastic, as always.
Well, Jimmy, I want to thank Abe again for performing another great Friday night at the board.
Abe,
Jimmy, you were fantastic as always.
Oh, so were you. Thank you.
And so was the great Ron Shaw. And I feel cleansed.
I feel cleansed.
I feel cleansed. I feel clean. I feel clean, Jimmy.
Don't touch me. I'm sterile.
I feel
nice.
clean. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And listen, I'm just going to say to people watching and anybody who'll be listening later on, stand by your morals. Stand by your beliefs because that's all you have. And again, your beliefs are your beliefs. Stand by them no matter what. Don't let anyone waver you. You know, stand for what you think is right. It may not be what everybody else thinks is right. And Jimmy, that's why I love you, because you stand for what you believe in, and you've never wavered from that. And it makes doing the show very easy because I can deal with a person who doesn't believe in what I believe in, but because I know they stand by what they believe in. Did I explain that right? Did that make any sense?
Yeah, well, you know, to me, the bottom line is and we're not completely polar opposites, but opposites attract, and what occurs when that happens? Balance.
Yes, exactly.
Because somewhere in the middle, which is balance, by the way, lies the truth, and that's what we're after.
And I will say this. I mean, give credit to Ron Shaw, right? This guy is part of that wrestling fraternity.
Mm-hmm.
It must be very difficult for someone to come on a show and look, he even said it. We all know Mario Mancini is very popular in this podcast network. He's no Dutch Mantel, don't get me wrong, but he's popular, right? People love him, and that's when we first started this thing. We knew that, you know, we get plenty of hate over this, but again, we're going to stand with what we believe in.
I don't care.
You got to give Ron Shaw a lot of credit and coming on here with his beliefs.
Absolutely.
You know? And now the whole thing about you guys are nothing, you know, now you heard a wrestler disagree with you. Now what are you going to say? Right?
Right. And if we're nothing, why do you keep responding to us anyway?
Which I find annoying. It's just like, let it go, bro. It's like you believe in what you believe in. We believe in what we believe in.
Right.
Just put it to bed.
Right.
Put it to bed.
Right.
It's over.
Right. Look, we just asked a legitimate question that we would have liked an answer to, and instead we got the I guess the liberal woke approach and got name called and threatened too. Oh, we're going to beat you up. If I'm in an empty room with you, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Well, you know what?
I've seen those two guys, and I know tough guys, and they ain't it.
Of course, just by judging the book by its cover.
First of all, I don't even know how you could judge from a computer.
You can't. You can't, and you don't judge a book by its cover.
Well, that's like me saying I know dumb guys, and he's one of them. And right. I guess I could say because he barely could speak.
Yeah. I mean, well, you know what, though? I mean, even on a visual.
Paul, what do you think of your podcast? Me like podcast. It's good. I like name of podcast. It's very funny.
What's next? Fire. Hot. It's Frankenstein, not Frankenstein.
Fire, hot, Mancini, smelly.
Unbelievable.
Jimmy, send us out.
Paul Fallow Roma. Oh, boy. What are you going to do? Well, this has not been Hunter Hurst Homely. This has been Monte and the Pharaoh. And until next week.
Hunter Hurst Homely. My God. Dude, if anyone, wait a minute, hold on. If anyone watches Power and Glory, please in the chat put Hunter Hurst Homely. Please.
From Les Toilettes Productions. Don't forget.
Les Toilettes.
We're so debonair and holier than thou. You've been watching Monte and the Pharaoh. And until next time, later.